What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Honey Hive. I'm Cherish, and I'm with one of my beautiful clients, Mandy. So, right before we got started, we were off camera and we were talking about how you found me. So,
Yeah.
how did you find me?
So I'm pretty sure that I was sitting at a beauty shop and the girl that does my hair had pictures done by you. And for some reason we got to talking about it and she showed me her pictures and I was like, you know what? I've got to go get that done myself. And so I booked. And that's how I got here.
And you've done one, two,
I think four.
three, four.
Because
Yeah.
I totally forgot about the one that I did earlier this year until I saw
1940s
until I saw the set. Yeah.
I love that. You know, when you first came, we were talking about this a second ago. When you first came, I think you did what, the Saint and Sinner the first time?
Saint and Sinner, yeah.
Yeah. We just did a river shoot together, and she said to me something that was kind of like a little profound. You said, every time I go through anything transformation wise, like spiritual wise, anything, you somehow always end up doing a photo shoot with me.
And I always come to you.
Yeah.
You've definitely been a part of my journey for sure.
To be honest, I'm very honored.
I mean, it's kind of
an
cool
honor
because I feel like sometimes the universe just puts you in front of people that you're supposed to be with. And I just feel that connection with you since the beginning. You know, my story is one that's kind of complicated and long, but how I got here definitely had to deal with where I came from.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought about it on the way here. It's like, where do you start when you're trying to tell someone your story and how photography and how much your life's changed?
Yeah.
I mean, where do you start that process? It's so hard.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you just kind of have to start with like the biggest change. And for me, the first time that I came, it was right before a major change in my life. I guess it was around 2013. Me and my husband, love him to death. We were going through a really hard patch. We'd been married for 10 years and we got married super young. Mm-hmm. We were 19. And it's just, there's a lot of changes that take place between the age of 19 and 25. And we just kind of started to drift apart and we decided to fix it. And when we tried to put back our life, it kind of led us to, I guess, just like go to, I don't know how to put it. It changed. Like our relationship changed and we just had to work on completely starting over from where we were. And I feel like with all the rotations of my life, I'm always having to start over. And each time I start over, I'm better than I was before.
Right.
So at the point when I came to you the first time, my husband pastored a church for a long time and it got to be to where it was just very complicated and it got to be kind of toxic, just to be honest.
Yeah.
Nothing against Christianity, nothing against the church, but for us, it was just not a good place to be. A lot of toxic people around and a lot of toxicity that it just kind of took us over. We were in service to so many people, we just forgot ourselves.
Yeah.
And when I came in, I did the bondage set.
Yeah.
And at first, I thought it was because I wanted to break out of the mold that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
Hindsight's 2020. And I realize now, I think the reason why I chose that was because I was still in that bondage.
Right.
It's funny how you think that you're breaking, being rebellious and breaking out and totally doing the opposite, but it's actually a reflection of what you're going through at the time.
Mm-hmm.
My first session with you, I was so nervous.
So
nervous.
I know you are.
You had the thing to where, you're tied up or whatever, which is totally cool. But for me, I was like, oh my gosh, everything's out. I've been here for 15 minutes. She's already seen my boobs. Like I was so up in my head about it. And I realized that it's just the culturing and tradition that I had where you're literally picked apart. Because I was a pastor's wife and I tended to be different. I was picked apart.
Oh,
and
I'm sure
that mindset was still here. So I went through the process. It really had me come out of my shell. And I feel like after I left the studio that day, I kind of had a renewed image of who I wanted to be. But now being on this side, I look back and I'm like, girl, you thought you had came through, but you hadn't.
You were not there. You were close.
Yeah.
I feel like I think that was inner you.
Yeah.
Screaming, crying, I want out of here.
It's ironic because that's my evil angel days. Yeah. Because I was still very much wrapped up in evangelical Christianity and just trying to break out of the norm. And I was an evil angel.
Yeah.
I wasn't really accepted in the group that I was running with, but I wasn't completely converted out of that either. So that bondage piece was so critical for me. And that angel piece even, it was just weird how that played out. But I never realized that until we started talking about doing this podcast, how much that reflected who I was.
Yeah. And then you did directly after that. And to touch on that a little bit is, you know, you came to me and you said, I think that the universe just kind of puts you in front of people that you need to be in front
Yeah.
of. And I think you were very, very helpful for me too, because at the time when you first came to me, I was still new in what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I too was new out of church. Like I too was new walking
I know
away.
we have a shared past in that. Um, it's hard, you know, when you're raised in a specific school of thought, to break out of that and to even think about something different,
Yeah.
especially with us because we were in the church, we were
Yeah.
ministering in the church.
Yeah.
And as much as I love the Lord and as much as I love the people, you know, something changed.
Yeah.
And I just feel like things change and you
Mm-hmm.
have to roll with that change. And it was time for me to change and to grow out of what I'd always been accustomed to in the box that people had always put me in,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be my friends, my family, whatever. Because ironically, not too long after we did the bondage set, I posted some of the angel pictures of me
How'd that go?
like a lead balloon. um, you know, and I think I got my nose pierced right around the same time. For some reason, that just really freaked everybody out. But it's symbolic. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't even begin to tell you. I feel like I'm not telling my story well enough to help like people understand that when you book a shoot, it's more than just going and get naked and get pictures done and hey, you look great and you know, give them to your significant other or whatever. It's really, and it has been for me, it's been a story and it's
Mm-hmm.
been a snapshot of who I am at that point in my life. And I can actually go back and just see completely who I was then, which ironically somehow goes with the theme that you
Yeah.
had, you know, and how I've came out of that.
Yeah. I like, I was brand new out of church. I think I'd only been maybe a year, maybe not very far at all. I started doing boudoir. I left the church. And what's crazy is when I left the church, everybody thought, so I don't think I've ever talked about this online at all. Like I've kept this very secret. Like I think everybody's kind of guessed that I've had issues with church before, just from the TikToks, because I'm kind of a bitch on TikTok. But
Oh,
and just a little bit. I'm just a little bit of a bitch. But in January of 2020, uh, the pastor of the church that we were going to at the time done something like absolutely unforgivable, like such a dick move, honestly. And I left. So everybody in my life, I guess they fucking forget. I don't know what happens, but all of them think that I stopped going to church because of that moment. They have no idea and they don't realize that I was actually like in turmoil for about 2 years, two to
yeah.
3 years ahead of time.
I know what that's like.
Yeah, I was already struggling, like and I think the reason they didn't realize I was struggling is my struggle turned into it wasn't me backing away. It wasn't me being like, oh, let me take a step back and look. It was the opposite. I had the opposite reaction. My reaction was, this cannot not be real. Like I cannot have wasted my life. I have to make this real for me. So instead of backing off, I threw myself like 100-fold into it.
Yeah.
And I got ADHD and I'm crazy as
I
hell
do too.
anyway.
So that's probably why this podcast is going to be bouncing, you
It's going
know.
to go back and forth. We neither one of us can complete thoughts. Both of us interrupt. It's
No,
just
but
how our brains
I
go.
totally can relate to that because my husband pastored for about 5 years and we had been in ministry for probably 8 at that point in time. He was an assistant pastor somewhere else. And it's somewhere along the road, I even got ordained. And I
Yeah,
don't know if you knew that or
I
not,
did
but
not.
I am an ordained evangelist. Past life. Anyway, um, I remember when it got to the point to where when we moved to this church that he was at, he did everything he possibly could. And I think we just kind of walked into a place that was already set up before we got there.
Mm-hmm.
We were just kind of the placeholders. We want you to come in and do the services, stand up, sit down, clap, you know,
Yeah.
be there when we call. And there was a lot of good people that were in that church. I don't want to say, you know, that they were all bad because it's not true.
Right.
There was good people there, but there was a lot of people that weren't. Um, and it was just time to move on. But I remember sitting there for about a year just struggling,
Mm-hmm.
just showing up, you know, and even when I would show up, it wouldn't be good enough. Girl, I've been talked about. I have been dogged
Yeah.
more than you know, more than I'm even willing to probably talk about. But I, those those times, it's like people just automatically want to assume that, oh, you've given up, you've left.
Does that
you don't
piss you
believe
off?
anymore.
You must not have been a real Christian.
Right. You obviously
don't
don't know what that's like, and all
They
the
just
other.
don't have any clue. The turmoil, the mental stress, the anxiety, the crying,
It's
the
trauma.
tears, of leaving.
I
It's
am
terrifying.
religiously traumatized.
Mm-hmm.
I
Same.
am. And it's not even so much my relationship with the spiritual as much as it was my relationship with the people that were supposed to be his people.
Right.
Um it's traumatizing, and it causes PTSD. I mean, even me just coming and talking to you about it and reliving those thoughts of sitting there in that pew watching my husband try his hardest, do his best, and it's still never being enough.
Mm-hmm.
Our church people, at one point, my family lives out of state. We had went to go visit my grandparents or whatever, and there was some conversations that, like, I was taking him from the church because we went a couple weekends to go visit my family. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how toxic some of it really became. And just to sit there knowing that, like, you're miserable because it's a time where you're just like, you're tossing and turning internally the whole time.
Yeah.
Because you don't give it up lightly, but everyone wants to say, oh, hey, have you heard that they left the church? Have you heard that she's over here taking pictures of people that are naked?
You know what I think is funny about
she's
that,
making
though?
Porn. Girl.
A porn.
And it's like, it's not even.
I'm just like, if that's the kind of porn you're watching, baby, that's real fucking boring.
It's not even like that, though, but people just assume.
Yeah.
As I was going through that transformation, I finally just got to the point where I didn't know who I was anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what I wanted for dinner. I could tell you what my husband wanted for dinner, what my daughter wanted for dinner, what the person down the road wanted for dinner. I could tell you what their favorite things were, but I lost who I was.
You don't know who you are. Right.
And right at the time when I came for that first shoot, I was so lost. I didn't know who I was. And I think that's part of the reason why I booked the shoot was because it's like, girl, it's time to get back in your skin.
Yeah.
Because your shine has dulled.
Yeah, and that's the only thing I wanted you in, your skin.
You get to the point to where it's like you lose yourself and you're trying to put yourself into all these boxes that everyone wants you to be or thinks that you should be, that you don't know who you are. Right. And there was a while there where I lost myself completely, and it was a struggle. And when I started walking away from that and realizing, hey, this behavior is not normal. This is a toxic relationship. These are bringing bad in your life. I mean, I was gaining all kinds of weight because of the weight I was bearing emotionally and physically and even spiritually when you're struggling. I mean, you just don't feel good. You don't feel at your best. And it's funny how as I've progressed out of that, I've lost weight, and I've lost almost 100 pounds.
I know. Just from the last shoot.
And it's 100 pounds, not of fat. It's 100 pounds of other people's expectations and what they think you should be and other people's opinions, because I've gotten to the place where I am in my life, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck. Okay. For everyone that's going to watch this, what other people think about me anymore.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
And I don't like to curse, but the thing is
oh, no, I do.
Cursing is part of expression. And when I say that word, I mean that word, because there's no other word that encompasses the power and the strength that I feel when I say that.
Honestly, I don't care. Yeah, I think that's a lot of the reason why I like to swear. I like to swear, number one, because like you said, I don't give a fuck. Like, think what you want. I don't care. I don't even give a shit anymore.
It's been hard, but going back to the photography part, we can talk about religious trauma all day. Being in the church for 12 years, being a minister to some extent, being involved where 4 days of your week are wrapped up in services and just other people's lives intertwining, and being in the southern part of the United States and the Bible Belt and all that encompasses, it's just so exhausting in a way because you're constantly trying to live up to other people's expectations. But photography, and especially meeting you and having what we have, has really helped me to get out of that.
Yeah.
It's helped me to love myself when I felt like I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I couldn't was because I wasn't me.
Yeah.
You can't love yourself until you embrace who you are.
Yeah, for sure.
Really, on the inside.
And I think that, like what I was saying a minute ago about how, like everybody in my life, everybody around me thinks that I left Christianity and left the church because of the hurt. So I did not leave the church. I left that church.
Right.
I didn't leave the church. I left that church. I think they forget that I went to another church for a while, but I'll never forget. I was sitting there and I was listening to him preach. It was a Sunday and I was listening and I thought, my God, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different building and a different person saying it. Like, I'm 33 years old. This is my whole existence. And I was just so over it. And I remember I came home and I told John, I was like, I really think I'm going to leave. And he was like, do you? That was the week before COVID shut everything down. COVID
Mm.
shut everything down. Churches shut. Now
Well,
I have
that's
no
recently.
yeah,
I
I
thought
had
that
no
that was.
choice.
I really honestly thought that you had been out of it a lot longer.
I started Boudoir before I left.
Mhm.
I started it
No,
before.
like I said, the universe has a way of putting people in front of you because
Mhm.
our stories are so similar.
Yeah, for sure.
They really
But
are.
I never, I knew when COVID happened and I didn't have an option to go. I sure fucking wasn't watching it on TV, but I wasn't going to get to go. And I knew that. It gave me time for the first time to not have to go
Right.
because like I'm
No,
a
get
people
it.
pleaser at heart. I
yes.
hate that about myself.
Amen.
And I will tell you that I'm not a people pleaser. I'm lying to you.
I'm working on that too.
lying to
Boundaries,
you.
healthy boundaries, and establishing healthy
Yeah,
boundaries.
I don't have good boundaries at all.
I'm working on that too because when you're in the church, it's just constant service to others and people pleasing.
For sure.
And especially when you're in the place of face, like
Yeah.
where you face everybody all the time.
Yep.
Girl, there were so many expectations on me. I had to make sure I was there for every Sunday school. I showed up and I was doing VBS and I was taking care of everyone's kids. And I was just like Mother Mary of everybody and everything. I
Yeah.
couldn't be human.
Yeah.
I couldn't mess up. I couldn't have a nose ring. Oh Lord, I had a nose ring, and I laugh about it now. But you know,
I like that they're on the same side.
Nose rings are in the Bible. First of all, I don't know if anybody
That's how
wants to
I
talk
got
about
mine.
that.
Yes, that's how I got Mom.
But they are.
Mom said when I was 15-year-old, I had been begging her for like 2 years. I was like, I want a nose ring. Mom was like, if you can find it in the Bible and it is not a
I love
concubine,
that.
she was like, if it's not a concubine and it's not a slave, I'll let you get one. I was like, bitch, bet. So I looked it up. It's Genesis 22.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was just common for the culture back then.
Yep.
But see,
And I love it.
churchianity is what I like to call it. This common evangelical, where you go in and we start the worship service and then someone gets up and preaches this moving message to try to bring the emotions out. And then we end and then we come back again the next day. And it's like, it's churchianity. Just about every church you walk into, it may be different. Some may have lights,
Yep.
some may have smoke, some may have never even worn pants in the last 40 years, but it all boils down to that same performance,
Yes.
the same thing. And after doing that for 10 plus years.
And there's like this level of, I don't want to say fake. I don't want to say fake because there's a lot of people in my life, even now, who I truly believe, like when people, even to this day, even though I no longer subscribe to Christianity whatsoever, none, just letting you know, none. When people come up to me and they're like, oh my God, I'm praying for you, I tell them thank you. I'm not rude to anybody about it. I don't dog anybody else for believing the way they believe. I'm not gonna shit on you for that, right? Because I was you, and when people tell me that they're praying for me, it's come a lot of them, not everybody.
Right.
Some people
You're
use
right.
it as a justification for
You're
whatever
right.
the fuck they want to do.
That's true.
But when people say that it's coming from a genuine place of love, there are some people that genuinely, deep in their heart, believe I'm going to go to hell, and it destroys them. They hate that for me. And even though I don't believe that at all, I also can sympathize with the way that they feel. And I will never talk down to them. My husband's aunt is one of them. I love her more than life. I adore this woman. She was my youth pastor my entire life. I used to tell everybody she was my spiritual mom. I adore this woman. But me and her do not see eye to eye anymore. And sometimes she'll text me and say, hey, I feel like God wants me to tell you this. And she tells me what she has to say. And she'll tell me, I know you're going to get upset. And I'm like, I'm not going to be upset. I'll never be upset by you doing what you feel is right.
Good for you, though.
I just don't agree.
Good for you, though, because that shows that you've grown.
Yeah.
And when you get to the place where you're willing to accept, okay, I know we're not on the same page, but I'll still hear you out. I mean, that's a lot of growth there.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'm really at that place because I just feel like I'm so traumatized.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many levels of that, especially when you're dealing with spirituality. It's just so hard. And even today, I told my husband the other day, he's still very much in the church and involved. And, you know, he told me before I came and had this podcast, he goes, you know, it wasn't God that hurt you. It was just people that were around. And I'm like,
and it still gives you the ick. It gives you the ick when they say it.
And I understand that, you know, people are imperfect and they're going to mess up and they're going to say things or whatever. But spiritually, it's just so hard to remove the concept. And this is just where I am, to be honest. It's hard to remove the concept of God from the church.
Yeah.
Because when you go to church, that's your time with God. And it's probably just something within me that I've not worked completely out yet, but it's hard. And
Right. I'm going to be honest with you. It wasn't even the flaws of other people that was the final straw for me. It was actually, and I probably would not put this on the internet because, I would never say something that I think would make somebody would I would think would make somebody struggle if they're not ready to struggle. You know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to tell you my epiphany because I wouldn't want somebody to hear that and it just be so devastating to them because that is the one big misconception we touched on it a second ago, which is deconstructing is such an excruciatingly
It's
painful,
horrible.
traumatic, anxiety ridden. I would lay in the bed and sob. And I would tell John, I was like, you said you love the Titanic. I
I
kept
do.
telling him, I kept telling him, I was like, I literally feel like Rose, like I'm on this door. I'm just floating in dark water. And
And you
now
just don't know where
what?
you're
Like,
at.
who am I?
Yeah.
And so it, photography healed me. Like, and I took that and I have helped. And I'm not saying like, oh, wow, great me, but I
I
have
mean, you've
found
helped
a
me.
tool. And with this tool, I was able to help other people heal from sexual trauma, abusive relationships. There's been a lot of women that have come in here, done these shoots, and went home and got divorced
Yeah.
because they leave and they suddenly look at
It's
themselves
like
and they're like,
you
you know
remember who
what?
you are
Yeah,
and
they're
you
like,
remember your
I don't
power.
deserve that shit. And
Yeah.
I won't take it, not even another day. And they leave.
I think photography can be life changing for
It
sure.
can.
I mean, it has been for me. It just seems like you've always been able to capture where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of shoots. So if you don't know me, I have a flair for drama. I think about my shoots like months in advance, and I always think about who do I want to be? Where am I
What
at?
story do you want to tell?
Wait, right. Because I'm a storyteller, I think, at heart, creatively. I never come in here just, all right, I'm going to use the client closet. I think I told you that once. And then I came in with like a totally different
Yeah,
idea,
yeah,
like a
you
week
did.
later. But I tell a story, and I feel like that story is of me. And photography is amazing because you may capture yourself in that moment, but then you'll go back 3 years later and you'll be like, girl, you didn't even realize,
Yeah.
who you were and what that represents. It's always been very symbolic for me. I think the second, help me remember, because I think I've had 4 shoots at
Okay,
this
the first
point.
one you came in, you did
The bondage and
the
the
bondage and the
angels.
wings, and then the second one you came in was the rock
Oh,
star.
okay. Yeah. So this
You
was
were a different person when you walked in my door, and I knew
yes,
it
because there
immediately.
was a huge change in me as a person, and that was my time when I was sitting in the back pew, just kind of floundering. Um, do we need to leave? Do we need to stay? I feel like we have something
I
to do
think you
here.
even said to me, I think you said, I'm a pastor's wife.
Yes, and
And
I was
then
holding the Di Serono bottle.
you were holding the Di Serono bottle. You're like in this rocker outfit, like you're half naked, and you're just like drinking
you
it. And
know,
you like, I'm a pastor's wife, and I was just looking at you, and I was
yeah,
like, "Bitch, not for long, you ain't."
that's hilarious. But that's kind of I would like to think my more rebellious side, I guess. And I hate to call it rebellious because it wasn't. It was just a reflection of me. Um, when I came in that day, we finally kind of chilled out a little bit on some of our beliefs and our morality and what I like to call our legalistic checklist of this music's okay, this music's not okay, this form of drink is okay, this isn't, and these right or wrong, black or white situations, and we
You
had
like, baby, this ain't the goddamn Amish no
we
more.
we had started kind of going to some shows and stuff like that and just living our life
Yeah.
because we were living it for everyone else. And I just got to the point where I was like, you know what, I have to claim who I am back. And it was super important to me. Music is so important.
Yeah.
We could talk about music all day long, but we were going to a lot of shows at that point, and I just had this idea, and most of the shoots I do were for me, but I always keep my husband in mind because let me tell you, he's the first one that wants to see him.
Oh, of course.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just going to leave it there. But he cannot wait for me to come home. And I wanted to do something that kind of was for him.
Yeah.
Because he's done so much for me over the years. We've been together since, I was 19. I'm 33 now. We have stayed together through thick or thin. We went through so many ups and downs, so many changes. I am not the same person that I was when I was 19. But you grow together, and I wanted to kind of do something that brought him into that some because he's part of me.
Yeah.
And how can you be yourself without having that around? But I came in, he loves Kiss and metal and stuff like that. And so that's what I wanted to do. And when I came in here, girl, I was wilding out of control.
I
It
know.
was like
And
my little spirit just got so free up in the
it was
studio.
like magic for me. Because before I was like having to pose you and tell you what to do. And then you came in this time and you came in like a bull in a china shop is the best way to
Yeah.
describe this. Like you walked in the
I'm
door.
here to just totally show up and show out.
You're like, I'm here. I'm about to fuck it up. You ready to see this? And I was like, okay, I'm ready.
I know.
And so, like, I normally with minis, I have like just a small amount of photos. I don't think you've ever walked away from a mini after that point with just the small amount of photos because you fucking kill it. Like that when you came out and you walked out and you got on the backdrop and you just started posing and moving and I just kept clicking and I was like, bitch, as long as you move, I'm gonna click.
It's amazing how when you
It was
find
great.
yourself, you find yourself. And
Yeah.
that was the very beginning of me finding my personhood. And that's a reflection. That's a part of me.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that's just going to rock out all the time, you know. And I finally let that come out. And it was so healing to be able to go back and see those pictures of me pretending. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning, y'all, pretending to drink just a Rono, or, you know, showing up in the corset and just being all legs, you know what I'm saying? Just doing something so out of the normal, out of the just the confined box that I was in. I just wanted to totally come in here and just break that wide open.
Yeah.
And when I left the studio that day, I left with that mindset. There's something about coming in here, bearing your soul, because ultimately, anytime that you strip down nude,
yeah,
and this is just me, I like to think that there's a physical aspect to that, but there's also a spiritual aspect. And that's probably why I'm booking the shoot between the sheets, because I am laid bare now more than I've ever been.
Yeah.
It's almost like I said, my shoots mimic life. Art imitates life. But,
it does.
You know, come to think of it, that's probably what that's going to be. It's just the time where I'm finally bare and I'm finally stepped into who I am completely. But that shoot, I left with that mindset and it just totally changed everything. And I've been through so much transformation in the last 2 years. I'm not even the same person I was in those pictures.
No, you're not. Not at all.
And it got to the point to where I just decided the next time around, I think you had this cute little setup over here with this red couch. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but it totally calls to like my little vintage soul.
Mm-hmm.
I love 1940s. I love Pinup Girl. I love, you know, victory rolls and the whole scene. And somehow I had that in my mind that I was going to come in and do kind of like a retro shoot. And it turned into the Rat Pack and like Dean Martin kind of theme. And like, we're going to go smoke a cigar in the lounge and like this whole scene. And when I came in here, I was a different person than I was even then. And it's like, I feel like when you have those pictures done in those points of your life, those aspects of you come through the camera. I am not everyone's cup of tea. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
I am plus size. I have double chins. I have flaws just like everyone else does. Everyone has that.
Girl,
you know?
Me too.
I don't always have the confidence that I have when I come in here.
Mm-hmm.
But coming in here and doing that and letting that just come through naturally, it changes you. Because when you get behind that camera and you see the magic that happens on the other side, you carry that with you. Like, you know what? I may be having a bad day today. My bangs may be going crazy. I may have this huge zit on my forehead, but I remember what I did 2 weeks ago in that river, and I remember how damn good I looked.
Yeah.
You need to give yourself more credit. And I feel like part of my journey of healing was not only healing spiritually, but healing physically, healing the love of my body, healing with the relationship of, you know, what I like to call my mom bod, right? Where I have my C-section scars, learning to love the parts of me that I was always told as a plus size individual, you're not lovable. You're not worth it. You're not seen as beautiful in today's, you know, cultural standards. I always had the fun personality, and that's what I had going for me in high school. Like I was made fun of constantly for my weight. Yeah. I grew up as the fat kid. I was a cheerleader in high school.
Have you ever heard that song from the girl? Her name is like Maddie Zom. She's off of TikTok. And she's got a song called Fat Funny Friend. You listen to that song, it will shatter your being.
I don't know if I'm ready for that. There's been so much like transformation. I don't know if I could even handle it.
Oh,
but I'll look it up though, because it'll probably be.
I'll show it to you after, that way you don't cry during the podcast.
Yeah, I don't want to cry for y'all, but you know, I remember back in high school, and you know, stuff like this stays with you. If you've had a relationship with a partner that wasn't very supportive, the first boyfriend I ever had, he was like 6'2", maybe 120 pounds. And here I was at 230. And he just looked at me one day and said, you know, we can't be together because everyone's going to make fun of me for taking you to prom or being with you. And when you're 15, that like crushes your soul, because you're like, no one is ever going to love me. No one is ever going to
an eating disorder.
No one's ever going to find me attractive. But you grow through that. And I feel like being on that opposite side where you're not at the cultural standard of, what they like to call the Playboy bunny type or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with
Like the
being that
standard, what
type.
they call the straight size.
Right. You got to learn to love yourself. And I feel like the different shoots that I've done have been a reflection of that.
Mm-hmm.
Girl, the last time that we came in here and we did that 1940 shoot, there was a point where I got on top of the dresser. Now, I'm a big girl. Okay.
Yeah.
And I've lost some weight since then too, because, and I want to touch on this also, when you begin to heal and you begin to allow yourself to be yourself and you find yourself and you're not just lost in service to your husband, you're not just lost in service to your job. I take care of my elderly grandfather. I mean, I do so much and I fulfill all these roles, but when you take that away, who are you?
Yeah.
When I allowed myself to finally find space to allow myself to be me, it's just like my whole existence just exploded into the world and doors started opening. I started to change. Everything changed for me. And I want to encourage you that if you are still in that box of service to someone else, you are not loving yourself. I wish somebody would have told me that. As much as you love other people, you're not loving yourself. You have to love yourself. And loving yourself sometimes looks like coming in here and taking pictures. It can look like spending some time reading a book in the afternoon, taking time for yourself because you're important and you matter. I wish I would have known that.
Yeah.
Because I've wasted so much of my life loving so much everyone else and not loving myself enough.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got onto the little dresser up there. And I don't know how it got to happen, but that dresser started scooting and the mirrors started going crazy. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm knocking over everything. But we created some great art from that.
For sure.
And there's one picture of me where I'm laying on this, like the lounge or whatever. And like I said, I'm a big girl. My muscles are not as toned as they could be. I'm working on that. But it's like I laid back and I started to fall. And she just took like 3 pictures in succession of me falling. And they happened to be my favorite pictures.
They were hilarious.
I'm naturally laughing. I'm naturally being myself, and that comes across. Yeah. And when you have that ability to be able to look at that and to see yourself outside of your own being, like not just being able to look in the mirror and say, this is who I am, but from someone else's perspective, it changes your relationship with yourself.
Yeah. And I think that is the magic behind what I do is, and I tell people that sometimes when they're in the studio, is you have to realize you are not looking at yourself the way you perceive yourself. You are getting a glimpse at how I view you.
Yeah.
And I find you beautiful.
Well, I find you beautiful too.
When I'm taking your photo, I want to capture what I see. And that's why I caught the laughing. That's why I took pictures of the laughing. I could have just paused while you fell, but I didn't. I caught it because I was like, this is beautiful. This is her.
And it is very much me because I'm very clumsy.
Yeah. You know what, though? I think out of the shoots that you've done, and maybe, I don't think it's because it's the most recent. I don't think it is.
It's not. And I'll tell you why. I know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
It's the river shoot.
For sure.
So with all the transformation I've had, I had to find myself again. And that's hard because it takes a long time when you feel like you've been buried under cultural conditioning. I'm sorry. And just all the weight of everyone else's expectations. You have to find yourself, and then you have to say, okay, self, you have to take that sticker off your forehead that says, I want you to like me, and put it on the mirror for you to like yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I had to do that. And
Yeah.
so this last year, I just really wanted to try to capture the freedom that I felt.
Yeah.
And I always try to find an aspect of my personality or things that I like to try to bring to it because I want to tell that story. And I stressed out the whole week before. Yes. Let me tell you this. I did not know what I was going to wear. I'm a very fly by the seat of my pants type person in my real life. For my job, I'm a nurse and I have to be very, very organized and very, very on point. But in my normal life, it's just freedom, right? It's just whatever goes, balling out of control. ADD.
Yeah.
ADD sister, you can totally feel that.
Yeah.
And I wound up ordering something on Amazon with the thoughts of, I might be able to find something to work with this. We could go Victorian, we could go pirate, we could go fairy, we could go gypsy, we could go, there's, a white dress with like the long shreds on the side. It could go any way you wanted it to. And the more I began to look at it, I'm like, I'm going to order this. I don't know if I can wear it. I don't even know if I own a measuring tape to try to see what size I am, but it's white and I want these to be semi-sexy, right? And so when we get in the water, we're going to see it. And at first I wanted to do the Oh Brother, Where Art Thou shoot.
Yeah. I remember you messaging me about that. Yeah.
you know, where they're slapping, "Go to sleep, you little baby." Like that's the moment I thought I wanted. But once I started ordering my stuff, it changed.
Yeah.
Um, I started thinking about how much freedom I felt in the last year and how can I best represent that and bring in who I am.
Do you know what I saw though? And maybe I'm being dramatic. Maybe I'm
No,
dramatic.
go
You
ahead.
love the flair of the drama,
I
so
do.
I know
Yeah.
you're gonna love this. But to me, when I was watching it, this is what I took away from watching you. The gypsy costume was cool because that shows like a side of you, that you like
The free spirit in me.
yeah, like the
Yeah.
free spirit, the
Hippie.
funky hippie
Yeah.
stuff. That is what I got from that aspect of it. But the reason I ask you to take off the headpiece, to take off the band, the reason I started asking you to strip that stuff off is because I was watching you going through the photos and like going through the motions of the photo shoot. I was looking at you and I was like, this is literally like another type of baptism.
Yeah.
I was
You said
watching
that. I
you.
remember that.
Yeah, I was watching you wash it away. Like
Yeah.
that's what I kept thinking as I was watching you. She's washing it off.
Starting over.
Yeah, brand
Yeah.
new.
Water is so symbolic,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I love water, but that's very true. And that's where I've been, you know, trying to shed the weight of everyone's expectations and find who I am. You know, it started off as a fun, fun
Yeah,
shoot, like you said, but then it went very
it
much
got very
deeper.
quiet. It felt weird. It felt like almost like nature itself outside kind of got quiet. Everything, it was when you stripped down and when you walked out into the water and you were really like waist deep,
Waist deep, yeah.
and when you just kind of threw your arms back and was floating and you just laid back. I literally, maybe it was because like it was kind of was very focused on what you were doing, but I felt like everything that just went silent. There was nobody around, even though I know there were people on the shore that was helping and doing whatever. It felt very quiet. It felt very reverent. It was like this weird experience that
Yeah.
me and you both were having in the water that everybody on shore had no idea what was going on.
But you know
Like,
my story and you've
yeah,
seen me through my changes too.
yeah,
You know, and it's funny because when you begin to change, people will automatically assume the worst.
yeah, for
They'll be
sure.
like, "Oh my god, you know, she's doing this and she's terrible." And you know, they just automatically think that you've went off the deep end, but I found that in those moments where everyone thinks that you're doing horrible, you're soaring.
Yeah,
You're doing the best you've ever been. And I feel like it's good for me to be told sometimes like, "Hey, it's really cool that you came in here with all these coins and this jewelry and like, you know, your hair's all done, you got on lashes for days, but you are enough."
mm-hmm.
And being told to strip down a little bit and to take away the drama and the glamour of it all and actually just reveal who you are. And I feel like those pictures of me in the river are bare in
Yeah,
the sense of they're just me, you know, and it's symbolic of that rebirth, that new baptism, I guess you could even
yeah,
say, that I've had, of learning to be content in myself and allowing myself space to be real
yeah,
and to embrace my fullness. And I feel like, you know, even being a part of this podcast right now, trying to go back and reveal like your past and to strangers, it's hard, you know, because you think about, oh, someone's going to judge me or
yeah.
someone's
Who's
going
gonna
to
watch
someone's going to
this?
show this to someone else and then, you know, they're going to think whatever. But at this point, I don't care what anyone else thinks.
Yeah.
All those fears kind of went away. And I this is who I am. And I have showed up
Trust me. Trust
and
me
I
when
have
I tell
showed
you.
out.
Trust me when I tell you I had that same thought because um you don't know this, but before I left the church, this channel was actually called Southern Mama's Coffee Break. And it was a live show that I did every Tuesday. I think it was either Tuesday or Thursday. We did a live, and either Tuesday or Thursday, we released a video of us doing fun things. And it was with a former best friend and one of John's cousins who I still love and adore. But the former best friend, I got ghosted. Like there was no conversation about why she wanted nothing else to do with me. It was just
Yeah.
she got me into Boudoir by asking me to do it. I did it. And then from that moment on, she just started distancing herself a little bit, but I got in the throes of the business, so then I wasn't able to like realize
Yeah.
she was kind of distancing herself. I just knew that I was kind of busy a little bit, but I still made time to make sure that I was talking to her and still spending time. And then one day she just blocked me on everything. No explanation, no reasoning, no nothing. Blocked me on everything.
You lose your community.
You for sure, you lose everyone. And so this channel was built on Southern Mama's Coffee Break. And we were doing like Bible trivia. and a bunch of other stuff. They all knew that we would talk about God and things like that. And so when I went to make the podcast, I was like, I'm going to make a new YouTube channel. And I went to go change. So, like, you can switch your channels or whatever. So I was going to switch channels, and Southern Mamas popped up, and I looked at it and I was like, do I make a new one, or do I just revamp this one? Do I just change what I had? And I actually went through and I deleted the videos, and I had already deleted the Facebook page, right? So the videos, once I delete these, they don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
They don't exist. And even though I was, like you said, I had a lot of healing to where, like, I can be sympathetic toward people when they say things like that to me. I do have empathy. I'm not cruel or crash when people, at first I was, don't approach me. I was like a wounded animal. I would kill you.
During the phase where I did the rebellion photos, that's what I'm going to call them, the rebellious years.
I think we were in the same spot. I still was that way. I mean, I was wounded.
I was very much so. my watch is having a lot to say, but during that phase, I was very much bitter, very much angry. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I've lost pretty much all sense of community. But something that I've realized that's beautiful is that when you allow yourself to be who you are in its fullness, whether it's pretty or not, you allow people to come into your life that will embrace you and love you in your fullness.
Yeah.
And so even when you're having a bad day, you don't have to put on a mask. You don't have to put on a face. You don't have to be anything other than just who you are organically. And that for me has been the biggest milestone of my life, is just being who I am organically. A lot of people, I have a small booth that a friend of mine, me and her have kind of went in, and we've started, stocking things. And what I wanted to do with it was just put out things that I loved that make me happy. And so I go once a week and I stock my little store that I have, and I'm amongst the things that make me happy. But if the people who knew me 5 years ago were to go in there, they wouldn't get it.
Yeah, they'd lose their mind.
They would totally like throw me under the bus. And it's not because there's anything inherently evil in what I'm doing. But when people started seeing me go back to who I was before they knew me, before that change, they didn't know me. And it freaked them out. Like, oh my God, she likes bats. She loves ghosts. I always have identified as spooky my whole life. I've always had weird occurrences take place, and I've been able to see and feel things, and I don't know, during the years of
you got the gift of discernment.
During the years of Christianity and my time in the church, I never really knew how to put those two together. And to be honest with you, even where I'm at now, I still don't know how that works out. Yeah. But it's a part of me that I can't deny. I'm naturally just a spooky person. I love fall. I love all the generic, Halloween and stuff like that. And I had to really kind of hide that down when I was where I was.
Oh, for sure.
And to just be able to be free has been so much of a life changer. And I feel like the gypsy shoot that we did, I knew people were going to talk about it too, because number one, probably my boobs were showing, through the white dress that I wore.
Just a little bit, just a
but
touch.
But it's not about the boobs. It's about the purity of the moment, the purity of being in the water, the purity of wearing white. And I guess it is really symbolic, that random dress I ordered on Amazon for $14. There's so much deeper when you look at them, because white is that purity. It's that sense of renewal. It's the most pure color you can really think of, what symbolizes innocence and that just early, age. And it's like, I went in that water, and I was wearing that white dress, and I was renewed into who I was and stepping into that fullness. And now I've gotten to the point where I'm pretty much like the talk of the town. Seriously, where I am. And there's a lot of people, like you were talking about your friend, that have probably deleted me, or at least watched me very heavily to see what I'm doing and to gossip about me and to talk about me. But you know what? I am happier now living and standing in my truth than I ever have been. And I may be all kinds of spiritually confused and messed up, and I may not be complete yet in my transformation. And it's a very lonely place to be when you don't know, and you're just kind of trying to figure out that portion. But I am so happy, and I am so me.
Me too.
And if there is anything that ever came out of this podcast, and if there was one soul that ever decided to watch my story, I hope that you get out. Be you. Do not water yourself down. Love yourself enough to let that come through and shine. The aspects of your personality, bring it into your life and embrace it, because you will never be able to be who you were put on this planet to be in any way, whether it's spiritually, physically, emotionally. You will never be able to be in your fullness until you receive yourself. And for me, Boudoir has just had such a deep impact on me loving myself. And, like I said, art imitates life.
It
And
does.
being able to have that relationship with you where when I'm going through things without realizing it, we're brought together. You'll always be put in the place where you're meant to be when you were your truest form. I never knew that because I spent the majority of my life being the older sister, being the caregiver, being the perfect, wife, the perfect family, just trying to live in everyone else's expectations. Life is so much better on this side. It is so much better. And people tell me that. And it's funny that you said that about the gypsy shoot that I did because I wanted to express that freedom that I've been feeling. And the next mini that I have coming up is that Between the Sheets. And
Yeah.
now I'm going to be thinking about that because being bare and being stripped of who you are, I think that's going to be really impactful for me.
Oh, for
Because
sure.
I asked you when I first came in here, I'm like, hey, what do we wear?
I said not a damn thing.
Just a sheet.
The sheets, you naked.
And I kind of panicked
Did
internally
you?
because I'm like, and that's why I said, well, you've seen me naked anyway.
Yeah,
Because I was like, oh God, she's going to see my butt, or and you've seen my butt 1,000
seen your butt.
times, and I'm really not afraid to show it. But it's just that you got to learn to let yourself be in your own body and your
Be
own
vulnerable.
existence. Yeah, and I think that that's going to be a reflection of that moving forward, and that's actually going to give me some inspiration about what I'm going to have to do. And you're going to have to tell me, hey, we're not going to put on the jewelry today. We're not going to wear the 5 million long eyelashes. You just need to come natural as to who you are now.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why I was here today.
For sure.
You know,
And the thing that the thing I don't think people realize is like Boudoir healed me too, but in a different way. So not only did it give me the freedom to realize who I was, so you came to me the first time when I was in the little baby studio, my little bitty tiny ghost infested
Yeah.
studio.
We love spooky. We love
Larry. Shout out to Larry the ghost.
Even though Larry was wild.
He'd like to touch your hair. Shout out to Larry who stayed in my studio the whole time. But my little bitty studio, when I got the opportunity to get this one, so this one is like 3 times the size as the other one, probably about closer to 4.
This one is gorgeous. If you've not been here, you need to come.
It's huge. It's
even
huge.
Just walking back to the podcast, I was being pulled
I know,
into
you were,
all
like,
these
looking at
directions going,
everything.
you need to get your camera. I'm going to pay you the money now. Just take me as I am.
Let me do it.
It's so hard to come here and not want to
Get your
do
titties
what
out.
we've always done. Yeah.
But yeah, this place is so much more beautiful. I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And so I was excited to come here. But I had the hardest time leaving that studio.
Yeah.
The hardest time. And I literally may cry talking about this. But we'd packed up everything. I went back to the studio. I was cleaning it up. And I actually took a picture of myself.
I saw you posted that.
Yeah, that was before we packed. This one I've never showed it to anybody. I just took a picture of me just standing there, just looking at the camera in the empty room. And I was like, I want to remember this moment because I am going to miss this studio. Like, I'm having a hard time leaving here. And John was like, why is it so hard? He was like, baby doll, this is a girl. I was like, I'm not shitting on the new opportunity. Like, obviously, I'm so excited to have this space and to be able to keep my sets up all the time, and like the lack of the constant bringing it up and down. I was like, I'm excited. And I was like, but I'm going to miss this. Yeah. I found myself here in this little room. I became me. Like, I found, like, this is my sacred little spot. I'm going to miss it. I was like, I'm going to miss my room.
Change is hard.
It is. And especially when you're already going through a lot of change. Like, that was my little safe spot. I could go in my little den of a studio and nobody would be in there.
You talk about it like that, but it didn't seem that way. Because that's when I first came and saw
Girl,
you.
when we pulled everything out and we unloaded everything and we were emptying it and I started taking everything down, I was like, how the fuck?
I genuinely think, though, that you need to give yourself more credit, though.
Yeah.
Because you're good at what you do. And I told you this earlier, you're worth every single penny that I've ever paid. And it's so much more than just the money. I know you run a business.
Yeah, I mean, I have to do what I gotta do.
We gotta eat. We gotta take care of our kids. But what you had there was so much more than I think you give it credit for. you have literally changed people's lives, whether you realize it or not. Girl, you've done it for me. And I'm
Yeah.
sure if you started to interview the other girls that you've shot over time, they would probably say the same thing. What you're doing is giving people the freedom and the ability to vocalize what they can't.
Yeah.
And that's what that was for me. And even though that little studio might be small and, it may
Yeah.
be a little dark and,
My little dark
you may have
room.
had just everything kind of on top of each other. It may not have been perfect, but it was perfect for what it was.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're exactly where you should be. Exactly where you should be.
Yeah, and I love this building and I love this studio, and I'm glad that I got over here because I feel like it's given me the opportunity to be in front of more people to do this. And I say that all the time. And yes, I do have to run a business, and yes, I do have to charge for what I do. I mean, obviously, and shit's not cheap.
No.
So I don't have an option to like my cost of doing business is extremely high. But at the end of the day, that's why I try to give so many options, because if I'm going to say every woman deserves it, then I need to be able, if I want to talk the talk, I need to walk the walk and make sure that I make it accessible to most, if not all,
And
women.
to be honest with you, I think that you have. But I hope that when you go to bed at night, you realize how much of an impact you've made on people, and how much even just coming here and taking pictures of someone one afternoon has given someone the freedom to just embrace themselves. And I don't want to cry,
Yeah.
but you don't understand how hard that is.
Yeah.
And you really are making an impact.
Yeah. I do, but I don't, if that makes any sense. It's like if you put on a nice outfit and you feel like you look good and then people compliment you, but you're just like, oh my God, they're complimenting me. I don't know what to do. It's kind of in the same thing, in the way of like, I know that I'm making an impact because I know what Boudoir does to heal me. And it's not just from behind the camera. It gives me the freedom of art, the freedom of expression. I get to help these women. I got started in women's ministry right before I left. And so this is just another extension. Mm-hmm. Now I'm a true women's minister. Now I help you in a way that a church never will.
I mean, and
church never
that's
will.
Very true.
Church will never help you.
And
through sexual trauma.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I don't feel like that's talked about enough. That your whole life, I was raised in church. I went to a Christian high school. You're told don't do sex. Don't be sexy. And as a woman, it's very hard.
You want to stay virginal until you're married, and then you need to be a slut.
And then the very, very second that you say I do and you go behind closed doors, then you can just unfurl and be like untamable. But that does not happen, because your whole life you're taught how to be tamed. You're taught how to say yes or no and be submissive and be that. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with loving your husband and being able to, communicate it and share that male-female balance. But you're taught your whole life not to embrace your sexuality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Boudoir is there's a sexual aspect to that, in a sense, because you're bearing yourself. And I knew for me, like, I was so messed up with that. Whenever we did have our honeymoon, I was just, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's another aspect too that kind of Boudoir's helped me with, is embracing my sexuality as a woman. And let me tell you, that is some deep stuff. And when you start to recognize your inner goddess, is what I like to call it, and your power that you have.
Mm-hmm.
My husband's going to watch this. I know he is. Our sex life has gotten way better. And it's just because I have been able to not only love myself and embrace myself, but to allow myself to be woman,
vulnerable. Yeah.
To be a woman.
Yeah.
And I hate how much the church preaches and kind of takes that from people, because there's power in that. And there's power to love yourself and to be free, with your significant other. And it's beautiful.
And the thing about it is they don't realize that by trying to control a woman's sexuality and preventing her from exploring who she is and feeling beautiful and sexy and powerful, by removing that from her, you're fucking with the man too. You think all these men are satisfied? They are not satisfied, because they're with somebody who doesn't know anything about herself. They're with somebody who doesn't comprehend, I can be beautiful. That's why they want to go out and fucking cheat, because they're going out. They want their wife to be a virgin when they marry her, but then play the whore. But she doesn't know how. She's never been the whore. So they'll go out and find the whore. So I bring you in here. I teach you. I slut you up, teach you how to be a whore. And I've even said that. I used to say, and I think I said it to you too, when we were doing the bondage photos. Probably. I looked at you and I said, doing bondage photos with me is safe. Like if you want to try something, like trying on something, it's a safe space because I ain't trying to fuck you. You
I
can
think you
try
did
it.
say
I
that to
did.
me.
You can try it
And it's
on.
probably because you picked up on the fact that like
You were
I
like,
was
oh,
terrified.
yeah, because you can try it on. Do I feel comfortable or confident or sexy in this? No? Okay, cool. Take it off. There's not some man with his dick out looking at you being like, oh, we're not going to do that now.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
You know, I've been really blessed because, you know, going back to my husband, even though we've went through so many rotations and changes in our marriage, I deeply love my husband. My husband deeply loves me, and that's rare. You know,
Yeah.
most people don't stick out with each other through changes, especially big life changes where your
Yeah.
whole like existence and personality is different. I mean, we've literally grown together,
Mhm.
and we continue to do that, and we choose that, you know. And one of the things that my husband has just deeply helped me with is being able to be comfortable in my skin. It's hard.
Yeah.
And I still look at him sometimes like, you sure about that? You
It's like
sure?
that TikTok. You sure about
You,
that?
you
You sure
sure?
about that?
Yeah, no, seriously. And I question him all the time. God, he's been through a lot, but he has deeply helped me too. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to incorporate him in some of that boudoir. And I would
Yeah.
love to do a couple shoot because I recognize what I have is rare. And I'm not trying to brag because I know that there's a lot of really good people out there that just do not, they haven't met that person yet.
Yeah.
But I want to tell you something, and this is a little tidbit and secret of life from someone that's been married a million years, right? You may not always find that person, but you can help that other person become that. You just have to be willing to choose each other.
Yeah.
Marriage is hard. Sex can be complicated and it can be hard, especially coming from the evangelical church where it's like, do not use that. And then all of a sudden you have this free pass to use it. And you're like, I don't know what to do. You know, and there's a lot of like really awkward times there, but you can if you choose each other, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
You can grow and you can change, and it's really quite beautiful. And that's something that I want to do is I want to have him come in and us do a session, and it doesn't have to be all naked, even though it could be or whatever, because
It's
but not like that,
couple
you know.
shoots are so fun.
But I just want that
Men are always the
intimate.
one that are most afraid because men have a hard time being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Women you're afraid, but you also really realize pretty quickly I'm an idiot. And so it's not very scary.
Yeah.
And I have a way of like, I actually got advice right when I very first got started from another boudoir photographer. He's like uber famous now. His name's Matt Matthews. And I had messaged him and I was like, hey, can you give me some advice? I'm just starting out. This was like 2020. Hell, we were all in the house.
Right, yeah.
Ain't nobody got no time to
Right.
be doing that anyway. So I might as well
Right.
ask everybody like, hey, what the
It's
fuck
good
am
to
I
have
doing?
mentors.
Yeah. So he messaged me back and he was like, my greatest advice I could give you is be yourself. If somebody doesn't like you, they're not your client anyway. There will be people that like you and people who do not.
Ooh, preach.
The ones that like you will book you. Do not ever water yourself down. Don't change who you are. Don't put on a fake business facade. He was like, if you are more of a clean cut, more business oriented person, he was like, be like that because there are going to be people that don't want that familiarity with you and they're going to like that. And he was like, but if you're one of those people that walk in and you're just like, get your fucking clothes off, bitch. He was like, if you're that, he was like, if you're ratchet, be ratchet. And I was like, okay.
Lord.
And I took that advice from him and I ran with it. So when people come into this building, when they come into the other building, when you come into my presence and I have a camera in my hand and you've paid me to do anything for you in any shape, form, or fashion, you're going to get me. Love it, hate it. I cuss like a sailor. The only time I behave myself and I don't swear is if I'm doing your little kid shoot. I behave. Otherwise, you're going to hear me cuss. You're going to see me do stupid stuff. I dance. I act like an idiot throughout the whole thing.
You know, but when we work together, you're quiet.
I am quiet. Yeah.
I don't know why that is. Like, I think the most you've ever talked to me, though, was maybe the first shoot. And that's probably because I was terrified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm really good in another life. Before I became a photographer, and before I did YouTube, because I'm the jack of all trades and the master of none, right?
I can relate to that.
Until now. Now I'm the master of the photos. But before that, I used to be a vet tech, right? And so in that life, I actually went to school and I learned animal behavior and psychology. So I'm very, 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 very good at picking up on body language.
Yeah.
I just transferred what I learned from animals, to people. And so I can watch you and just I will be looking you in the face in the slightest movement of your fingers or the way you sit or the way that you move or the way your eyes move toward me. Animals are nonverbal. They
Mm-hmm.
only give you physical cues. So I learned to watch physical cues. So I don't care what you say out your mouth to me. I know what you're really feeling on the inside
Yeah,
by watching you. And so when you first came in, I knew you were nervous.
I was.
So we got to give you the old razzle dazzle. You
I
know what I
was.
mean? Like,
I was.
I'm going to act funny and crazy and we're going to have a good time. I'm going to make you have a good time. I want you to walk away not
I
afraid.
think that's one of the reasons why I like you. I
Yeah.
mean, is that you're able to kind of provide that energy, because I've worked with some photographers in the past where it's like it's just kind of flat.
Yeah.
You got to bring your own magic, and if you don't have it, it shows. You
Yeah.
know, but the way that you work with people, it really helps. And I think that's just part of the beauty of you,
Well, thanks.
and what you do. It just I just hope you understand, even if this doesn't make whatever, forget the camera part. I hope you understand just how important you've been and how valid you are and how valid your business is. And don't ever settle because you're worth every single bit of what you do. Even if times get hard and things change, you are 100% worth it. And it's like, you are so good at what you do.
I really struggle with imposter syndrome. I
I
won't
know,
lie.
I know. And I think that's common with ADD because I do the same thing. I'm a
Yeah.
nurse and my personality could not be any further from that. But
Yeah.
see, I love people and it's a people pleasing thing. I totally get.
Yeah.
I want to love on people. And so my career fits me perfectly, even if I'm a little scattered.
Yeah.
I'm not working in ICU, you
You might
know,
be naked and we might have a
um,
45-minute conversation about something and
I'm,
chase rabbit
I'm
trails, but we're
definitely
coming
not,
back.
I'm definitely not going to work in ICU, but I do want to work with people. And I
Right.
feel like you are in exactly the place that you should be because of the gifts that you've been given. You are such a little ball of joy in life. And I honestly, just because I've recently opened up my little store, like, your like business knowledge and stuff that you've had to learn on the fly, like that's so inspirational to someone
Yeah.
that's just like starting out and trying to find their purpose and what they want to do, because I don't feel like I'm going to be a nurse forever.
Yeah.
I love what I do. I love it. I love my patients. I love my people. I love going and doing the things, but I want to branch out and I want to express and I want to create, and there's always been that in me. I just don't know how it's going to come out just yet, but watching someone actually take the risk and do that, you deserve so much more credit than you give yourself, because you might be scattered and you might have ADD and your email might be Miss Squirrel, which I think is hilarious. Okay. Even on her professional page, but you offer so much more than just pictures. You do. You offer like a whole experience. And I wasn't prepared for that when I came in the first time. I wasn't prepared to meet myself the way that I met myself.
Yeah.
And even yet, and still, every session that we do and stuff, God, I wish I could be here every day because it just makes me feel that much more empowered. Like, I'm going to get on this couch and you're going to capture my best side, which just happens to be my ass. Okay. That's the mood I get in when I'm here. And that's not me in real life sometimes, but it's just like you offer so much more than just pictures. When you pay for that, you're it's just it's powerful. And I feel like even though we have had that business exchange of photos and you're a boudoir photographer and all this stuff and you've got your studio, it's been so much more than that. I mean, you've really became someone that sees me in my most vulnerable moments and my changes, and you capture it flawlessly. Even to the point to where I'm still looking back at those pictures that I've made, even the ones that I may not like because there's this flaw or that flaw. It causes me to have a different relationship with myself and to dive deeper. And every single time that I come and I book, I'm almost kind of psyching myself out because it's like, what life change am I going to do now? Can I even come here, just have normal pictures made without it meaning so much more than it should?
What am I telling the universe to fuck up
Right.
next?
Like, what part of me can cherish, pull out of me this time? But I just feel like sometimes when you vibe with people and you find that person that works with you so well, it's just beautiful. And so I've seen some of the pictures you make with the other girls, and it's like you can just tell. I know that my story's not the only one. I'm sure if you could have everybody line up, they'd probably all say the same thing.
Yeah, I get a lot of messages, and it's not been that long ago. Isabella posted in the group and was like, "Let's." I think she had texted me or something, and I was not having a very good day, and she had texted me and she was like, "I just wish you understood how much people love you." And I was like, "Okay,
And they
what the
do.
fuck ever." And she put it in the group and she was like, post one of your photos and tell Cherish like what it did for
I
you.
wish I would have saw that because I would have wrote you a whole book. Because let me
Oh,
tell you,
most
for
people
some
did.
reason on Facebook, I'm in the groups. I follow notifications. I swear I never get half of
I
it.
know, I know. That's why I tagged you in the between the sheets.
I'm
You was
glad you
like, I
did.
want to. You're like, I want to do the between the sheets. I was like, okay. So then when I posted it and I didn't hear from you, I was like,
Yeah.
bitch, I'm tagging you in
I know, just tag me
it.
in them all. And when you get the spooky season rolling, girl, I'm ready.
I've actually been on the fence about like what I'm gonna do about spooky season. But yeah, when she posted that and like a million people just started pouring out and like I even commented at one point and I was like, guys, literally, you're making me cry. I think that people thought maybe I was just saying, like, oh, you're making, no, like I was laying in the bed fucking sobbing, reading all of this because I think I get a little jaded sometimes because there are the clients that come in and they just want the pictures. They don't give a shit about the personality. They're not here for anything. They just want some sexy pictures and that's great. Everybody comes for their different reasons. But most of the clients, I realized, most of them are walking away with some sort of fulfillment that they didn't have before they showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that is the true magic. Like, I feel like I stepped into my life's purpose by complete accident.
And I completely see that.
Yeah,
I
it was a
mean, it
total
just exudes
accident.
from you
Yeah.
and what you do,
Yeah, it
you
was a
know.
complete accident. I never expected it to
It
happen. I
wasn't an
wasn't
accident.
prepared. Well, it was
It wasn't an
accidental.
accident.
It was an accident because I didn't plan it.
Well,
Not because I wasn't meant to be. It's just
but
I didn't
listen,
plan it.
the gifts that you have, it aligns perfectly with what you're doing. And I just want you to know it's so important. And you were doing so great. And just keep
Thanks.
going. And I wish I could go to the beach.
I know.
We keep talking about that every time I look at her. I'm like, I need to go on the beach trip. But seriously, though, I mean, you're creating so much, and it's inspiration to people that still feel like they're trying to figure out their purpose. I mean, I still kind of feel like I'm still figuring out what I want to do and what I want to be because I feel like I just found myself. You know?
Yeah, and I was 33 too.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
33.
36. I'll be 37 in September.
I am going to be 34 in September. When's your birthday?
The 16th. What's yours?
11th.
Ooh,
Ooh,
Virgo
yes.
Queens.
What's your rising sign? I'm an
Sagittarius.
Aquarius.
Oh Lord. What's your moon?
I think I'm an Aquarius moon as well.
Oh, I'm a Pisces
That's
moon.
probably why I don't identify with my Virgo side because
Probably.
I can function in that side. That's the nurse side. But like
Yeah.
me as a person, I'm like, no.
No, so I feel like I dual wield the Virgo
Yeah.
and Sag because I'm definitely like up in your face, life at the party, but also everything has to be perfect at all
Mhm.
times.
Yeah. I've seen that side of you too.
Yeah, I'm both ends. So I give my clients the Sagittarius, but in the background, the Virgo is a
But that's
raging
but that's
bitch
part of what makes
because
you
it has to
perfect.
be
Because you got to
just
get your light
good.
going. You got to, make sure your client doesn't fall off the dresser when they're trying to get up there and they shouldn't be, and the mirror's not attached. And, if there's an accident to be had, I'm going to find it. But there's never been a time where I have felt uncomfortable with you. There's never, and sorry. Let me just say the time that I did feel that way, it was a reflection of me and not you.
Yeah.
And of course, you're with a stranger. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
you didn't know
saying?
me.
But, whatever.
I fucking fixed that, didn't I?
You did. You did. And like literally at this point, there's nothing that I feel like I couldn't do. You know what I'm saying? Because when I came in, I literally bared my soul the first time. But it's so beautiful. And there's just so much growth in that and transformation. And to be honest with you, I just feel like we make art.
Yeah.
That's ever since I did that shoot in the river, I just feel like it's art, man. And whenever we're together, it's just art, and that's the best way to describe it because you just help me see myself for who I am in that moment and that fullness that I'm bringing. And I'm all about being who I am right now. I'm all about speaking my truth. I am all about standing in the fullness of who Mandy is, and you're a part of that. And I feel like in the next couple shoots that I'm trying to get together, that more of that will come out. And
Yeah.
it works for you on the business side because I know that sometimes when you're able to capture those moments, it's a great promotional tool.
Yeah.
But more than that, it helps me.
Yeah.
It helps me so much.
And I post a lot of the photos, not even just because of the business, which obviously it does help if it
I mean, you
encourages
run a
somebody to do
business,
it.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You got to do that portion.
But I do it because I'm so proud of it. Like I'm so proud of it. Even when you say the art, I think I've said this before on my Facebook and I've said it before on my TikTok and it sounds so cliche that I think people just think I'm just full of shit, honestly. But you are my art. You
Yeah.
are my muse. You are my art.
I
When
need
you come
to.
in here, I look at your body. Like women will be naked in front of me and they're nervous. And sometimes I have to apologize because, like, when we're doing like the silhouetted shots and stuff and they're naked and I'm like adjusting the light, I have to like
Right. Yeah.
is so intensely stare at you while you're nude. And I'm just like, I'm adjusting the light. Don't worry about it. Just don't worry about the fact that I'm like dead eyeing your boobies. But I don't look at you as a naked, vulnerable, naked person. Like I don't look at you and like, oh, look at her boobs. Oh my God, look at her belly. Look at her wrinkle. Look at her stretch mark. Look at that.
Right.
Like I don't look at you like that. I see you as a whole. I look at you as the whole being. I look at your body as this is my work of art. How
Yeah.
best
And
can
it
I
comes through.
display it?
It completely comes through. I know that there for a long time, I reconsidered doing more boudoir photos, but the first ones I had, I didn't really feel that empowerment. But I also wasn't in the headspace that I was in now.
Right.
But being able to just come in and just be with you and just, it's just art. And I hope that one day, I mean, because you're just an inspiration in everything that you do and how you've grown and even how your business has grown and how you've been able to do this. Like, I'm so inspired. Like, I want to do that too. Maybe not do exactly what you're doing, but I want to find my purpose and I want to move forward in that. And it's just super cool that you're living in that. You're living in what you're supposed to be doing. Because honestly, I can't see you doing anything else. You
Girl,
say
it's,
vet tech, and I'm like, huh?
yeah, for 11 years.
And that's crazy to me,
Yeah.
But I was definitely that person that would stalk the pages of, photography and just be like, man, I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that wants to get out there and do that. But like, hey, I'm, 300 pounds and I have mom bod and I've had C-sections and I see my flaws.
Yeah.
There's never been a time, I think, whenever anyone else has looked at me and seen flaws, but I was really critical of myself and I saw my flaws and it kept me from being able to express myself organically for a long time. And, having a spouse that helps you in that, it really helped me move forward. But I know that there's got to be millions of people out there that look at what you do on TikTok, that look at what you do on YouTube and Facebook and, your business page and just wish, man, I wish that was me. But what
Mm-hmm.
they don't understand is
Is that
that
could be them.
it could
It is
be.
them.
And that the people that you pick aren't models. It's not like we've
Mm-mm.
all signed a contract, that we all have to have a certain height, weight, whatever. I mean, you literally take people as they are and have that skill set and that gift set to be able to make it into the best version of themselves. And I think that the camera is very telling because it has been in my experience to where you may not like what you see at first, and it may not just be physical things, you know what I'm saying? It may just be a reflection of who you are at that point in your life. And sometimes that's a catalyst to make changes to, release that and to be more full in who you are. And
Yeah.
I feel like that my first rounds of pictures with you, that was what it was.
Yeah.
It was a honest reflection of who I was at that time and the changes I was willing to make. And I cannot wait. I'm thinking about it now. I'm going to make like a little YouTube video for me. Seriously, of
Yeah.
some of my favorite pictures that I've taken with you over the courses of the shoots that we've done, and look at how much the change has been. Because I bet you anything, if you were to line some of those up, and I'm sure other girls that have booked multiple times over have the same story, if you could really see the difference between the beginning and the end, or at least beginning and current, it's like night and day.
Yeah. And also you can watch my growth with you because I'm learning too. Like I'm learning too. And every time you come to me, I know that I want to floor you just a little more.
Yeah.
Like I want to impress you just a little more.
I love coming in here. I feel like a princess the whole day. And I go home with my makeup done and my hair done.
Even if I make fun of you in the middle of it, I'm like, what are you doing? Move your damn hand.
I'm coachable, okay?
You are coachable, but I like to my coaching's a little rough. Like I coach like I'm coaching little league football.
No. No.
Just like roll over. No,
No.
not that way, the other way.
It is fun when you come in here, like the kinesthetics of it all. But every time I come in here, I feel like $1,000,000 and it's addictive.
Yeah, very.
It's like I made art, you know what I'm saying? And I'm feeling sexy as hell and fly and all the
I
things
think
that
it's
you are.
because you realize you didn't make art, you are art.
Yeah. And you really get to see yourself for who you are.
Yeah.
And that's just, I guess that's, more or less the whole point of this podcast is just learn how to let yourself be who you are and to live in that fullness. Just like that guy told you, you've got to be who you are, and people are either going to like it or they're not. And be, most of all, just make sure that you just set that little part of you free and throw it out there, because the light that you have on the inside desperately needs to come out and shine. And I feel like for so long, I just kept mine covered without
Yeah.
realizing it, trying to help it to shine. But you can't do that until you allow yourself to love yourself enough to go through whatever you went through, to go through the trauma, to process it, to be able to move forward and to just say, I don't give nothing about what anyone thinks or says. This is me, and standing in that fullness. And that's just what you've done for me. And I know that that'll change, because we're ever evolving people, we're ever evolving creatures. And I'm not always going to be this like, I am who I am. I mean, I think there'll be an aspect of that,
Yeah.
because once you have that, you will never lose it.
Yeah.
You won't. You'll make your boundaries and you will consistently stand in that. But I think moving forward, since I have found myself, it's just going to be more pulling of finding those parts of myself to love, and figuring out who I am and my purpose and my goals, and how I can be the best I can be for what I was created to be, because I don't think there's any accidents.
No.
I don't think that us being in the same place at the same time, you probably just created that, the universe pulled that together for that many, just for me to be able to be here, to walk through those changes, because you've definitely played so much of a part of my story, so much. And I hope that, like, with this podcast, even though I feel like I've not covered any ground and I've probably talked in a circle,
It's the ADHD. We both got it, baby. We
I
just
know
gonna
it's
keep
bad.
swirling
It's
around.
bad. I should have brought notes. Like, okay, point A. Let me tell you about this. But
we
no,
would lose the notes.
I know we would, and I wouldn't follow them anyway. But I probably wouldn't have even sat down to make them.
That's
Truth be told, But just being in that fullness, and I cannot wait to move forward and to see how much it changes, and how our relationship grows, and how we mirror each other. The universe doesn't make mistakes at all, and you are not in this place as a happenstance. It just kind of happened to pull together. No. Mm-mm. You're here for a reason and a purpose. And if there's anyone that hasn't been able to find their purpose and to help step into the fullness of who they are, you need to come. Even if you don't do boudoir, you need to find whatever it is that sets your little soul on fire, and at least allow yourself to be set on fire, because that was part of my problem, is I would never let myself come out of my box.
Girl, I feel like this is a damn altar call.
Sorry.
Come on.
Sorry,
down.
but no, I mean, seriously, because
the evangelical
I really
die in you.
Okay, anyway, this is about finding yourself and having that encouragement from an absolute stranger to move forward. And that's what your platform and that's what your business has done for me. And I hope and pray that there's someone out there that will do the same. Yeah. Thank you so much for everything that you've helped me to do.
Thank you for coming.
And just for, just helping me to be me and loving me in that way, And
thank you for trusting me.
Oh, girl.
It takes a lot of trust to come in here and be vulnerable with someone.
It does.
Yeah. And so I appreciate the fact that you looked at me and said, you know what? I'm going to trust this weird human being. I'm going to trust this creature.
Yeah. Well, you kind of have a way of just
worming my way in, what I mean?
I couldn't leave you even if I tried.
Got you hooked. I told you it's my magic.
It is. It's addicting. It's addicting here. And I'm struggling because he's registered to call my name.
It's because I wore those to a drag show.
Oh,
God, it was so fun.
I
loved it. Although my feet were dying by the end of the night. I thought I was going to die. I was like, oh, I'm fucking limping. I was limping around my camera.
Hopefully you can find something in this podcast to throw out there.
Oh, for sure.
Because I'm going to go home and think about, what did I even say? Like, I'm going to be watching this in 2 weeks going, let's see what I actually said and how this panned out.
Happened. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this podcast. And thank you, Mandy, for coming on here and sharing
Thanks
your
for
story
having me.
and loving on me a whole lot.
I know. That. Well, I just hope that there's always this place of healing for everybody, because you've healed me. Even just by me being here, it's healed me. So I just hope everybody's just being able to heal and move forward. But yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And I cannot wait to make more art.
All right, guys, if you want to, you can subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the bell notification so that you know when we upload, and we upload every Friday. So we'll see you next time. Bye. Love you. Bye.